Meteorologist Matthew East here in the Weather on the One's Forecast Center for today's edition of the Carolina Weather Video. It is Wednesday, the 8th day of February, and weak storm system, or at least a moisture-starved storm system, moving through the region today. I'll talk about that, plus another system that's possible, although not looking terribly likely to produce any precip of significance this weekend, and then another system or two later next week, some longer range thoughts overall too. Let's start with the radar imagery this morning, and you have that system that's moving into the region today, producing some precipitation. And when you get north of a line from right about there, that's all snow at the moment. And there will be some accumulating snow with this. The best snow totals will be in the mountains of West Virginia, into northern Virginia, western Maryland, and southwestern PA, and a few inches of snow are a possibility in that region. I'll show you the RPM snow accumulations here in just a moment. Temperature-wise this morning, some pretty cold air has made it down into the Rockies, and even some teens down in Amarillo, Texas this morning. This is all a pretty cold air mass, and it still looks like a pretty significant blast of cold air moves into the eastern part of the country, including our area this weekend. And in a winter that has not featured a lot of overly cold air, even though it's going to be in and out, it will be a pretty significant shot of cold air this weekend. Now with today's system, there'll be a few snow showers kicking into the mountains. This is what the RPM modeling prints out for snow accumulations. And there could be some relatively minor accumulations in the mountains of North Carolina. Nothing terribly significant, but this is one of those, as the day unfolds, kind of upslope snow events, and the favored northwest-facing slopes could pick up some relatively minor accumulations. And then again, there'll be a few inches of snow in the mountains of West Virginia, into western Maryland and southwestern Pennsylvania. There's the upper level disturbance cruising through the region today, and it's still a complex pattern. You have this upper level low moving into Mexico, another piece of energy rounding the backside of that trough, and this is off the European modeling. Let's go out to the weekend, and here we are early Saturday morning, and the European is a little bit more pronounced with that little piece of energy that'll swing through here early Saturday. And the Canadian is extremely close to popping a significant storm system. It's the most intense with that disturbance, and boy, you look at the modeling here on the Canadian, it really wants to crank. It's so close to cranking a significant storm system, but a lot of its effects stay south of the Carolinas, but I'll show you that here in just a second too. Today we'll have a lot of clouds around the region, and once you get east of the mountains, there will be maybe a few brief showers or areas of light rain, but just the moisture is so limited with this system, the chance of any significant precipitation east of the mountains is small. A lot of sunshine with fairly cool temperatures tomorrow, highs in the upper 40s and lower 50s for the Piedmont and the foothills, and Friday's probably mid, maybe upper 50s in a lot of spots just ahead of that next blast of cold air. Now here's the GFS representation for Saturday morning, still printing out a little bit of very, very light precip, mainly before daybreak on Saturday. The European model, kind of similar to the GFS, some very light precipitation here. And then you have some pretty decent range with this down in Florida and into the western Atlantic. And again, here's that Canadian model. And it's, I mean, I tell you, it's oh so close to wanting to pop a significant system here. At the moment, it's got a broad area of low pressure centered over North Florida, and you don't get much precipitation here with that. But it would only take that disturbance sharpening up just a bit to pop some more significant precip there on the northwest side of the low, but not looking terribly likely, but it wouldn't surprise me if the models did beef up the precipitation a bit for Saturday morning and future runs, but we'll see. I'm not really overly excited about that. And then we go into Sunday. Now, this is a pretty decent shot of cold air, and I think a number of foothills and Piedmont spots will have a hard time reaching 40 or so Sunday afternoon. It's going to be a pretty chilly day, and Saturday likely a day with a stiff northwest wind as that cold air advection takes place. Lows Sunday morning and Monday morning look like they're heading into the low 20s in a lot of spots, and some of the traditionally colder spots could definitely see some teens on one or both of those mornings. Now, as we get into next week, this is Tuesday on the GFS, and finally it moves an area of low pressure up toward the Great Lakes here as we get to Wednesday evening, and that could be some severe weather over parts of the deep south. I don't think a huge severe weather threat at the moment verbatim here. It'll take a good bit of effort to dislodge that drier, more stable, lingering Arctic air. Now, the Europeans are a little slower with this, but the same general idea, low pressure lifting up into the Ohio Valley in the eastern Great Lakes, but it's almost a day later on the European. And then the GFS has another system Friday evening, or at least during the day Friday, with a low pressure taking a similar track to the previous one. And again, that'll be a deal where we'll have to see where this next Arctic boundary lies itself here, because that'll be the track of storm systems later on next week. And finally, out toward the end of the 0Z GFS run, had another pretty good blast of cold air around the 22nd or so of February. But, you know, that's way out there. So we'll see how all this plays out here as we go through the next week. That's it for today's edition of the video. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and God bless.